It's okay for MEPs with no responsibility or power to sit here and say that we need an open door to limit these numbers of people, but people in the real world are being hurt. It's even reported that the Commission won't accept that there's any link between the migrant crisis and the sexual assaults in Cologne and elsewhere. Indeed, in the FEMM committee 2 weeks ago, a Labour MEP called me racist for saying migrants and refugees were involved in the attacks. If it was your mother, your daughter or your friend, would you still deny anything happened? This is what happens when you open the door to other countries and cultures that treat women as second-class citizens. Then we have the attempted cover-ups by the police, the politicians and the press. To hear Swedish police say they won't report what happened because it might benefit some political parties, and that for German politicians to say women should act differently in public is disgraceful. The people we vote for and the authorities we expect to protect our safety are cynically turning their backs on ordinary women and men because of political correctness. And what happens when the people who have committed these crimes get EU passports or are given nationality from EU countries? They will have the right to come to Britain without any criminal background checks. In 2015, 100,000 illegal migrants were stopped trying to enter the UK. This shows the scale of the problem heading towards Britain. But what happens if we look at the other side of this crisis? Over 10,000 migrant children are missing. Europol have said that these children and young people are being forced into sexual exploitation and slavery by criminal gangs. The International Organisation for Migration said it was to be expected that many of these will be caught up in exploitation. And that is without mention of thousands of dead and missing in the Mediterranean. So not only are these EU policies putting women under threat at home, they're also having horrendous consequences for women and children trying to seek safety. Of course, we must open our hearts and help innocent women and children, but this is not the way. For the EU to expand the meaning of the Geneva Convention through qualification directive to mean anyone fleeing armed conflict has led to 1 million people arriving in Europe in 2015, many turning to criminal gangs to get here. And the EU free movement rules allow them to be trafficked all across Europe because there are no border controls, no criminal background checks between countries. Free movement is a huge security risk which was exploited in the Paris terrorist attacks. Weapons, criminals, terrorists can move freely around Europe and attack public places, all thanks to the EU. The EU is putting women in direct risk, and clearly they cannot cope with this crisis. For the safety of our own women, men, and for the sake of innocent victims, for other countries, we must get control of our borders and we must leave the EU.